Heyo, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Nonsense Double Feature. My name is Jared.
And I'm Isaac.
Hello, hello, sir. How you doing today?
It's going good. I got back from seeing Dune Part 2 and A Complete Unknown in theaters both,
Ooh,
so that was a great, great day.
that is not a Nonsense Double Feature. That's a Timothy
It is
Chalamet
a
Double Feature.
Timothy Chalamet double feature.
Nice.
Just
You really can't go wrong there.
absolutely not.
Huh. All right, so I thought we would start off the lovely podcast today by talking about some recent big movie news, which is kind of these three big blockbuster trailers all coming at once between Fantastic Four, Jurassic World Rebirth, and, of course, Superman by James Gunn.
Yup.
So, did you any either of these three you want to start with? How do you want to go? You can pick.
Let's start with Jurassic World Rebirth, because I
Awesome.
feel like that's the one that has the highest, disparity of could be good, could be bad. Like, I'm
Yeah,
very
for
much
sure.
50-50 on Jurassic.
Mhm.
I love Gareth Edwards. I
Yep.
think he's a great director.
Yeah.
But after the last few Jurassic movies, I'm a little burned on them. But I can't deny I like seeing a good dinosaur on the big screen. But I'm just really hoping this one doesn't make me quite as mad as Dominion did.
I haven't seen any of the modern Jurassic films. I've kind of just avoided them because
What?
they've never looked super appealing to me. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm definitely gonna watch them all before Rebirth, just because
Good.
Gareth Edwards has a visual style that I want to see. I don't always vibe with his scripts very much. I mean, I didn't vibe with the script for the creator at all,
Mhm.
and I thought Godzilla was a little bit boring, but visually spectacular. So I definitely want to be seated in the theater for all his movies. So I'll see that for sure.
Yeah, that's my biggest takeaway is I love him behind the camera. I don't love him with a pen in his hand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like Rogue One. I think that's a fun movie. It definitely strays into the fan service realm quite a bit with all the Darth Vader stuff, but I like it.
No,
I
100%.
think that's a fun movie.
I think Rogue One's probably still my favorite movie. It's extremely good. And
Hmm.
you have, Greg Fraser on there. That's
Of
guaranteed
course,
good looking movie with him.
of course.
Um, what I'm excited about for this Jurassic movie is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was shot on film.
I think I heard that as well. I haven't looked too deep into that, but I heard that.
So that's already just like an instant, like,
There's a
I'm
few shots
intrigued.
in the trailer that definitely look a little filmic.
Yeah, they look that. I love the color and texture of what was going on there. Even if
Yeah,
it's just kind of looks like a very basic, hey, there's dinosaurs and we gotta, you know.
it's funny that the big mutant dinosaur that they're showing off. I think they're calling it like the D Rex or something like that.
Uh,
Um, it's funny. Jurassic fans seem like kind of some of them at least seem kind of bummed out by it. Like don't love the mutant dinosaur aspect. But I don't know. That looks pretty freaking cool to me. I mean, I love uh, Gareth Edwards as Godzilla. Obviously not script. I just mentioned I love it visually. So if I can get more, Godzilla stuff, I'm not gonna complain. I mean, I get it. I'm not the biggest dinosaur guy. I know some of the paleo nerds like when it's like super accurate, but me personally, I mean, it just looks like fun to me.
yeah, I'm with you on that. He can shoot a big monster. I guess my thing is just my main problems with the last few ones were just like DNA buffoonery. It's like, hey, we made a T-Rex crossed with a raptor, and then the next one was like, we crossed that T-Rex and raptor with another raptor, and then the last one, they're like, this is a mutant dinosaur that's basically like the Joker.
Oh,
And
that's
it's like,
true.
what does that
Oh
even
yeah,
mean?
wait, was it Colin Trevorrow who said like this T Rex is basically the Joker or
Yeah,
something?
what was it? Like the Gigantosaurus is like, this is
Yeah,
basically the Joker of
that's
dinosaurs, and then
that's
it's
the
just a big
funniest thing in the world.
dinosaur.
What are you
Yeah,
talking about? It's the Joker of dinosaurs. Like,
yeah. I guess the idea of taking like, hey, we're gonna make dinosaurs scary, and then they just
right?
like make mutant dinosaurs, but it's like dinosaurs are already scary.
Yeah, no, T
But
Rexes are already pretty scary.
but then again, their whole thing of the novel is they're like mixing genes and stuff, so it's not a stretch to say that there would be mutant dinosaurs. I'm not against it. It's
Yeah,
just I'm a little burned on it.
gotcha. I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
And there's one shot in particular from that trailer before we move on to the next one, of just the red flare in the while the guy's running through the water, and you can see the D Rex kind of sneaking up to it. That looks so cool.
Yeah, my only the thing is every single Jurassic movie has a one where it's like someone's got a red flare and the dinosaur comes
Oh
out.
wait,
It's
yeah,
like
no, I'm just remembering
every
now.
single one.
In the first one, when Sam Neill is waving it at the T-Rex. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
I'm they do it in the Lost World, like I believe they do it like in the city. Jurassic Park 3, I really don't remember, but I'm sure they did it. I know they did it in Jurassic World. They did it like early on, like in the opening scene, I believe, of Fallen Kingdom, and then did they do it in Dominion? I don't know, but there's always a shot, red flare, dinosaur, and it always looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean the two I've seen so far looks cool. All right, so I think we should do some Fantastic Four now.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that trailer looks awesome. I mean, listen, does it still look a bit like just a Marvel movie? Absolutely. But there's at least like some attempts at contrast and color grading, and the lighting is at least somewhat interesting. And then
Definitely.
the actual like Fantastic Four elements look great. I mean, Thing looks beautiful. That little brief shot of Galactus is awesome. Watching Johnny jump off the balcony and ignite in the sky is just lovely. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, what you're just talking about, like the shot where he jumps off and ignites on the balcony, like it like lights up like the dirt on the lens. I'm sure
Yes.
they added
Oh.
that in post, but
Oh.
that was sick.
Yeah.
And that obviously that's just one shot, and is very much a teaser. But I'm glad to see they're definitely leaning into we're a family,
Yeah.
and it appears they've already like kind of been established. Like people are
Hmm.
wearing like the Thing merch, like the Fantastic Four is like what they're collectively called, like
Yeah.
before they even go up in space. So they're leaning into that. So I think even if this film maybe still kind of falls into the trappings of like the typical MCU blue screen, green
Hmm.
screen, mostly gray look. I think at least the characters will be more on par to like what we used to get, where like really charismatic, you really care for them. And like that's what made the MCU succeed early on. It was like you had those characters to latch onto, and I feel like we don't have that as much.
Right.
So it does look like this one could be that way. So I'm leaning positive on
And it's gonna
first
be
steps.
it's directed by Matt Shackman, who is at least I personally know him for a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia stuff. I know he did like WandaVision and stuff like that, but his episode of It's Always Sunny. I mean, obviously it's a 20-minute comedy. It's much different, but
Yes.
he has some really creative direction in some of those episodes. So I was interested from the minute he was picked, and I think we're seeing some of it in the trailer. I mean, I'm a gigantic Fantastic Four fan. I've read a ton of their comics, and I love them. The family vibe is the best, and I'm thinking if he can take that really strange, demented family vibe of It's Always Sunny and turn it into something genuine with Fantastic Four, we could be in for something really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think they have the elements there more so than any like more of the recent MCU stuff. I think the pieces are all there for this one to succeed, but I'm coming in with a lot of trepidation,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
should say.
at the end of the day, when the Marvel Studios logo pops up, I'm always a little apprehensive. So
Mhm.
I am I'm cautiously optimistic for this movie. Let's say that. I think the cast looks pretty good, so
I
I'm
do like the
excited.
cast.
Yeah, I at first I was a little iffy on Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, but he is giving that energy very very well in the trailer alongside Vanessa Kirby. So
Oh yeah, I
I'm
was
more
I
interested.
was was definitely nervous about Pedro Pascal as Reed, but he's totally won me over, and
Yeah.
I was nervous about Joseph Quinn as Johnny, but um, he's won me over in Gladiator 2.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, this guy, he kind of has the juice.
Yeah, his
So
performance in Gladiator 2 was pretty special for sure.
I think we're good with Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and on to the lovely Superman by, of course, Mr. James Gunn, who has
James Gunn.
directed, was it like 6 movies now? I think like almost all of them being comic book movies, but they rock,
Yeah, I
in
think
my
so.
opinion. I mean, I'm a Guardians fan. I'm definitely a Suicide Squad fan, and I am absolutely
Yep.
a Slither fan. I love Slither. That's a super
I
fun
have
movie.
not seen Slither, but
Slither
I've
is
seen his
just a
comic
great
book
time.
movies.
It's a big Evil Dead homage, and I love Slither. It's a good
Oh,
time. Yeah, you
Evil
should
Dead homage. Okay.
definitely check it out.
I'm definitely gonna check it out before Superman, obviously.
Yeah.
And the thing about Superman is I had read none of his comics up until pretty recently when they announced he was gonna do this. And they're rebooting the entire DC universe
Of
again.
course.
Obviously, the thing about Superman is this movie has to succeed.
Yeah, no, like he, yeah, it kind of seems like the brand's
It-
reputation is kind of teetering on it.
like everything hinges on this film. And I always dislike talking about like, oh, this movie's got to make money, 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 money. That's
Right.
not what it's about. The
Hmm.
important thing is that the movie's getting made. But like with all the other stuff they've announced, I want to see it
Yeah, no,
because
of
it
course.
sounds interesting. They're getting good creators on board. They are going like very standalone-ish for a lot of things. Like it's very much just like everybody's in the same universe. They're all doing their own thing. They're all like different filmmakers are gonna do their own thing. Like we might be getting a Luca Guadagnino movie. We
Yeah.
got a Mike Flanagan script coming in. We have all like who
What's
was
his
it?
name on Swamp Thing is going to be on
Oh
there.
yeah, James Mangold
Yep.
on Swamp Thing. Like we have so many great filmmakers who will just do their own thing, and I think that's the draw for me as
Hmm.
opposed to like the interconnectedness of the MCU. And so when we started the Superman trailer, and the first half is just him kind of lying in the snow, and then it's you see the Daily Bugle, and you
You
see
mean
all these different
the
heroes that are
Daily
already
Planet?
established.
Daily Planet, sir. Daily Planet.
Daily, oh, what did I say?
You said
Did I say
Daily
Daily
Bugle.
Bugle?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been watching MC movies.
It's
I
all
guess I've
right.
got Marvel on the brain,
The Superman nerd in me just kind of leaped out right there and could have let Daily
which is
Bugle slip, but
embarrassing,
it's okay.
embarrassing, embarrassing. Daily Planet.
Daily Planet.
They're both called Daily. It's
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
But just like everything looks like a Frank Quietly Superman illustration.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah. No. It
I want
it looks pretty. I mean, I'm not in love with the look of Superman so far. It definitely looks a little weird, but it looks unique, and I'm not against that.
So this is where I am fully on board. I am out of all like the superhero big blockbuster trailers of stuff, like of all the summer blockbusters that I'm most excited for, like in this sort of like IP space, Superman is the one I'm most excited for. James Gunn got me his name being attached, got me to read so much Superman comics over the last year. I've read pretty much only Superman comics. So I feel like I'm a lot more well versed now, and I have come to realize that I love Superman. And the things I love about Superman are all present in the trailers. They are present in everything that James Gunn is saying about the movie and about the character. They're most importantly present in what David Corenswet is saying about the character. I think he has the potential to be like on par with Christopher Reeve with how he's talking and how he has been talked about. And I think this movie needs to succeed. And I think this one is going to succeed. And I think it's going to surprise a lot of people because I feel like we've seen nothing of the movie. And that excites me.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, as a a huge Superman fan, I said I'm a big Fantastic Four fan. I've read a lot of their comics. I've read probably double the amount of F4 comics I've read Superman comics, and
Oof.
yeah, it's a lot. And I love Superman. I've seen all the movies. Not big on Man of Steel, not big on Superman Returns, but I really do like the Christopher Reeve films quite a bit, especially those first two and the Richard Donner cut of the second film. I love them. When
Absolutely.
when James Gunn was announced to be the Superman director, I was super apprehensive because he's generally not. When I think of James Gunn, I don't think of superheroes like Superman. Like I think of like
Yeah.
silly C-listers, like Peacemaker.
Hmm.
But as time has gone on, it seems more and more like James Gunn is a good pick for this. And with the cast he assembled and
Mm.
the way the story is shaping up, the Nicholas Hoult, the way he looks as Lex Luthor, I can't deny how excited I am. It just looks awesome. I'm definitely apprehensive about some stuff still. Part of me is, as a big DC nerd, I can't help but be a little scared and a little nervous about stupid crap that no rational person should be scared about. But I'm excited for sure.
I just think that James Gunn is a filmmaker who very much has a distinct voice in
Hmm.
every film he does. Like his direction has shined through in the MCU. The Suicide Squad is extremely James Gunn,
Yeah.
and I mean that in a very complimentary way. And I know people are hesitant on the look of the film, and I was too. I think I've slowly been won over, but I'm more so excited about like a lot of the modern comic book films. They kind of just shoot it and then figure out what they're going to do later. Like
Yeah.
nobody has like a look in mind typically. Like they want to look uniform. They want to look like, the same. They want to have like not as much of a style because they want it to be about the story and the characters. But James Gunn is going for a specific look in this. Now,
Mhm.
whether or not that works for you, obviously that's up to people's opinion, but he's going for a look. He's
Yeah.
going for a very specific style, and it's like it feels larger than life, like with the different lenses they're using, which I understand looks goofy because it looks like a .5 lens on some people, but like there's some shots where they're switching the lens mid shot, so like it makes things feel like they're expanding and growing right in front of you. It makes like Superman look huge, and I think with some stuff we've seen from Suicide Squad and Guardians 3, I think that visually, I feel like this is going to be a very unique comic book movie. I think they're going to capture the flying well. I think they're going to capture
Mhm.
the action well. And as long as they can have action as good or better than Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I'll be happy because I love the action in those movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Snyder's action in those films are crazy for sure.
It's crazy good.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, I think we've
I think that
exhausted
covers
our
it.
points. Yeah, absolutely. So let us move on to our first movie of this episode, which would be the brand new. Well, I don't know how brand new it is. About like almost a month old now. Would be
Pretty new.
the Sophie Thatcher film Companion, which was directed by Drew Hancock, I believe, of
Yep.
the very famed writer of Fred 3, Camp Fred.
My favorite of the Fred
Yeah,
movies.
really?
Yes.
Oh, good to know. That's good to know. So I like actually just watched this like right before we recorded this podcast. I just squeezed it in, and I was definitely interested, somewhat excited. Sophie Thatcher is a good actress, so I'm interested to see. Unfortunately, I did not love the movie very much. While I would say there are some good parts, and without a doubt, the third act has some really cool stuff. I think the first 30 minutes are like torture, to be totally honest with
Like torture.
you. The first, I mean, it's beating you over the head with the point, and I get it, I get it, and I'm not I understand. Sometimes a movie is gonna misdirect you, or it's gonna make you think it's going one way, but it's going this way, and it's all about you got to sit here, get through this 30 minutes, and then the next 30 minutes will make so much sense. It was so unenjoyable for me that I stopped caring. And I was no longer willing to really engage with it beyond like, oh, this is kind of fun and kind of cool.
Ooh.
How did you feel?
Well, I would say I saw it a month ago. I saw it at a slightly early screening for like a mystery movie, so I saw it like a week before it came out. So I saw this I believe it was January 27th, so about a month ago. Um, and my biggest thing is they revealed way too much in the trailer.
Mm,
They revealed the main first act twist.
yeah,
And the reason this is a problem is because once you know the twist, you kind of just want to see where they're going to take it. So when you have a pretty brisk 97-minute movie, and
yeah,
the first 25 minutes, you don't, well, but you don't know that she's a robot. It's kind of a drag to get through because you're like,
yeah,
can we just get to the robot stuff? Which
yeah.
is a very similar issue I had with last year. Abigail, it's like we know the little girl's a vampire, but they got to spend the first 30 minutes figuring out what she is. Oh,
Hmm.
she's a vampire. Now
Hmm.
we can start. But if they didn't reveal that in a trailer, that would be awesome. So, for example, I took my mom to see this movie, even though it was a mystery movie, and she went with me. And when it was Companion, she was like, "Okay, awesome. I wanted to see it." And she had only seen the teaser trailer, so she didn't know the twist. So, and I talked to her afterwards. I think she had a way better experience than I did because she didn't know it was coming. So she was shocked
Hmm.
when the movie basically took a total left turn and was like not what she expected at all. And I think the trailer is totally deprived that from us.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I went into it and I was thinking like when they had they're sitting in the car and they're driving to the house and it opens up with him saying Iris wake up and then she's up, right? And that's
Yeah.
obviously the first little tease that she's a robot. But it's like it's just I honestly I think even if they didn't market it, it would have been straight up clear right then and there that she's a robot. I think it would have like I think it were so heavy handed with it in that opening 20 minutes where it's like I get it. This girl is is a robot who exists to be basically just this guy's slave. You know, like she's carrying in his heavy bags, and he's carrying his little canvas bag over his shoulder, and it's like I get it.
Yeah,
But
so my mom didn't know she was a robot, but when afterwards, she was like, "There was something up. I knew something was coming, but she didn't know what it was."
mm,
And that's what's important. She didn't know what the twist was specifically. Just because
gotcha.
you know there's a twist coming doesn't negate the twist.
Hmm.
When you do know the twist, that negates the twist.
Certainly, certainly. Ugh. Well, I guess we could move past the opening 30 minutes. Let's get to the part where I started to kind of enjoy it.
Violence.
Yes, I started to kind of enjoy it when when she was running away from them in the woods, and they started to reveal that this other guy was also a robot. I did not expect that. I will say
I did
that
not expect that
that
either. I
twist
love
got me.
that.
Yeah, that was good. And generally, I was as I was going through this movie, I kept thinking about this cast and how they're in like so much stuff. And that guy was well, not so much stuff, but they've all just been in recent stuff. Where that guy who was the other robot, he was in Smile 2 with that creepy ass smile. What was his name? I had the cast pulled up.
Lucas Gage.
Lucas Gage. Yes, he was
Yeah,
awesome in Smile 2. I was
he
happy to
was
see him
awesome.
again in this one, and he was really really good. Um, I will say I think this is tough because he is a lovely young man, and I enjoyed the first 3 seasons of The Boys. I think Jack Quaid is pretty bad in Companion, and it's pretty rough.
So Jack Quaid, Jack Quaid. He, I feel like he always plays the same type of
Mhm.
character.
Mhm.
He, like, I just always see him as Huey from The Boys, unfortunately.
Yes.
So obviously he's different in Companion, where he's more like overtly like not a good guy versus
Yeah.
just like kind of a goofball who like is kind of a bad guy,
Yeah.
but not that bad of a guy. Um, and I haven't seen Scream 5, but from what it sounds like, he basically
Oh,
plays the same character as Scream 5.
don't get me started on Scream 5.
Don't worry, it's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But Jack Quaid has very much dug himself in a hole, it seems, as an actor.
Yeah.
So I would like to see something a little more different from him. I guess I'm gonna have to disagree with you a little bit. I don't think he was bad in this. I
Mhm.
think he fit the role very well. It just happens that this role is kind of similar to everything else he does, but he
Mhm.
does it well, in my opinion.
I
So
think I don't think he was like bad until we got to like the third act when he was trying to be this like aggressive and like it's like revealing his full self that he was kind of this really evil manipulative guy the whole time, and then he's like literally throwing Iris around the apartment or the house, and the entire time I'm just like, can you give me a little bit more, Jack? It's just a little flat. It's like I forget what the lines were, but he's just like talking as he throws her around, and he's just straight up saying it. Like just give me a little more, man. And I,
yeah.
I, I, I think of that because I look at the other cast members. I look at Sophie Thatcher, who is acting her ass off the whole time. She gives such good faces throughout. Like, oh my.
100%.
Uh, Rupert Friend for his like 15 minutes is really really good. And
Very funny, very thick Russian
yeah,
accent.
yeah, Harvey Guillen is so believable and so good. And Megan Suri is a pretty small role, but she's so believable. And I saw her film from last year, or it might be 2 years ago now. It Lives Inside, and she's a totally different person in that movie. So I'm interested to see more from her. But it's just, man, dude, even the red-headed guy from College Humor, when he showed up at the end, I enjoyed him more than Jack Quaid in this movie. And this hurts because I like Jack Quaid. I think he's good in
Yeah.
The Boys, and I like him as Superman in My Adventures with Superman. Um, Between this movie and that trailer for, I think it's called Novocaine,
Novocaine, yeah.
man, I'm not hot on Jack Quaid right now, and it's unfortunate.
However, very luckily, as much as Jack Quaid is a large presence in this movie 100% lives and dies by Sophie Thatcher's
Yes.
performance in this film.
Yes.
And luckily, she is incredible
Yeah,
in this
she
movie.
is really really good. If it wasn't for her, I probably I hate admitting this because I think you're a jerk if you don't finish the movie. But if Sophie Thatcher wasn't in the movie, I would have had a lot of motivation to turn it off in the opening 30 minutes.
Yeah,
But
I think
she's great.
she she has such an energy in the third act, like when she's like, like gotten like she knows she's a robot. She's like turned up her like intelligence to 100%, and she's like trying to figure out what to do. She's like
Yeah.
planning out stuff, and like things just keep going wrong. But like she still keeps fighting, and then by the end, when she outsmarts him, oh, I mean, like, is
Oh,
it like
when she's
what we all
standing,
expected to happen?
she's standing in the corner all dark, and it's like the like Teddy taught me total self control or something. Like,
Oh,
oh, that was
so good.
so
That
cool,
was great.
so cool. I will mention there was one scene in Companion that made me laugh extremely hard when Josh reprogrammed Patrick to make him fall in love with him
Oh,
instead of Eli, and
that
his
was so
and
funny.
dude, his vision to when they first met changed, and it's Jack Quaid under the dinosaur costume. That was so funny. I won't
Dancing
lie.
the booth thing.
Oh my god, that
That's
was
so
so funny.
funny.
You're my little
Cause
boo
like,
thing, and he's just spinning around. Oh
so
my
funny.
god.
I loved the explanation where they're like, they have to establish like a love link is what they call it,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so like they have presets. I think the idea of having like preset meet cutes is so funny. Like, oh, you're stepping on my dinosaur tail, and then they start dancing to boothing in sync. That is awesome. And
yeah.
getting to see that scene twice with Jack Quaid in one of them, and then in the first one being Harvey Guillen. Oh, I that was
I'm realizing
funny.
now. I think if the movie leaned more into the humor, I would have loved it a lot more because the parts that were funny were so funny, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's why I think like the first and second act, like especially like the second act, is probably like the best bit of the movie because they're like leaning into the humor of like there's two robots, like we gotta hunt down a robot, like oh she's a dumb robot, but it's like oh but she got away, like they're
Yeah.
like chase like what is it like Harvey Guillen calls the police and like he's like oh yeah she's tied up in the house and then she sneaks out and then
Oh my
his
god, yeah.
robot's
He's
trying to
trying to
like get
get
his
his
attention. He's
attention.
like baby I'm on the phone. It's like that little stuff like that I think is like really funny.
That was really good. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, there's one other thing I'm thinking about, but I just forgot it for some reason, so that's a real bummer. But I'd say, oh yeah, okay, I'm back. Don't worry, everyone. Um,
Got it.
it was. I will say I didn't like it, but I will be seated for future Drew Hancock. He did enough to make me think, okay, this guy's got cool ideas, some general mindsets that I agree with. So I'm gonna check out more of his stuff in the future, assuming it's not Fred 4, Camp Fred returns, whatever.
But if it is Fred 4, I will be seated.
Yeah, I mean, I'll consider it. I'll give you that. All right, and now we are going to move on to segment number 3. I don't know why I did that voice. I just felt like doing it. So,
It's funny, leave it in.
so now we're going to talk about the 1982 film Swamp Thing by the legendary Wes Craven of Scream fame and A Nightmare on Elm Street and What the Hills Have Eyes, New Nightmare, Red Eye, a bunch of big movies. Wes Craven, he's a legend.
Oof.
What did you think, Isaac?
So, I expressly went into this with zero knowledge of the character of
Mm,
Swamp Thing.
mm.
And I came out of the movie with expressly no knowledge on the character of Swamp Thing. That's my biggest takeaway was I knew he was a dude. I knew he became a Swamp Thing. I knew he was sad about that. And, love interest.
Mhm,
That is the entire movie.
mm,
Now I understand maybe I say I knew nothing, but clearly I knew how he became Swamp Thing. I thought that was nothing, but apparently that was everything.
mm.
So despite me not liking this movie, it did get me want to read the Alan Moore Swamp Thing run, just
Nice.
because I feel like this could be an interesting character. I just feel like it was very didn't do anything interesting in this movie.
All right. Those are your little base thoughts there. I respect it.
Yeah.
I will say, this movie is definitely not great, but I liked it. I had fun. I am not a big Swamp Thing fan comic wise. I've read probably like 20 something issues of Swamp Thing, all Alan Moore. Um, and this definitely doesn't take any characterization from Moore, because, I mean, there's probably a tenth of like the actual character here. But I had fun. It's definitely a homage to the 50s and 60s Universal horror types. It isn't the best homage. It's a bit silly, but I think it's just a fun time. The opening, I think, like 25 minutes is just a lot. There's just a lot happening at once. We're introduced to Adrienne Barbeau's character, and she's brought in to meet Alec Holland, played by the lovely Ray Wise of Twin Peaks fame.
Legendary.
Yep. Um, who is just absolutely mogging everyone in the movie, by the way. I mean, that
It's kind
dude.
of disturbing.
Oh my god, early 80s Ray Wise was a smoke show. Like, goddamn. um, but, but, I enjoyed the movie. I did. As it went on, it gets a little repetitive, and I mean, it just kind of becomes like dudes in the swamp looking for Swamp Thing with Adrienne
Yeah.
Barbeau just running around. It literally is 90 minutes of the same thing after those 20 minutes. But I personally enjoyed it. It's very cheesy. It's very schlocky. It's very B movie. But I think there's some cool visuals. I think there's some really exciting scenes. And I think Swamp Thing's costume and makeup is pretty excellent.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So most of my positive points for this movie comes from just incredible like practical effects. The
Mm-hmm.
Swamp Thing suit looks insane. Like it looks so good. It is like I obviously there's like a human face, but like I couldn't even tell. Like
Yeah.
I understand it's like a rubber suit, but they use it very well. They cover it in just the right ways and they like shoot it in just the right ways to like really sell you on the design of Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very on board with that. And like you said, the opening 20, 30 minutes I did enjoy a lot just because there's like stuff happening. But then once he becomes Swamp Thing and after like that first initial action scene of him in the swamp, it's then proceeds to be the exact same scene over and over and over again for about an hour, where it's just him running around the swamp. They're chasing him. Sometimes he'll stop and like take one or two guys out, and then it's like, oh, we gotta get the swamp. And there wasn't enough to me, at least, like visually, to really keep me kind of interested as much. So I just
Mm-hmm.
found it honestly. I truthfully, I just found it quite a boring film a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the time. There are some definite good visual stuff, despite me saying it's mostly not. But there are still like some bright spots. Like there are some very wide shots, and you can see like the Swamp Thing like walking on the swamp like
Yeah, those
very
are
wide.
some
That's
really nice shots
awesome.
there with all those trees, and he's just kind of in the center, way off in the distance.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
so
looks like Bigfoot, and it's great.
yeah,
And then there's like a shot where he's like sniffing some like pink flowers. I think like the color of that one really, because it's very like a drab swamp. It's very like brown and
yeah.
green, and then like you have like the splash of color in there. I think that was some great stuff, but mostly bad.
Word. I mean, I loved all the pink flowers. Well, those were I think they're orchids. Those were beautiful, and the I liked the little green shining liquid, and how
Oh, that was
when
hilarious.
he would heal people, their faces would shine with them. I mean, as an adaptation of the character, it's not very good. There's not much in terms of, especially when you're looking at the Alan Moore comics. There's just not much characterization, but it's fun. It's very indicative of the Silver Age style, where it's just more about the adventure itself rather than the character. Which is
Yeah.
a little weird because then in the third act, the movie really tries to lean into the love aspect, and how the love for Adriana Barbeau is kind of what's keeping him going.
Yeah,
It's
that's
weird.
something I wrote down where it's I just found the love story very underdeveloped, and when that's
Definitely.
kind of like the core of your story, it's like
Yeah, it's very underdeveloped for sure.
it very just underwhelming. And then I feel like with they definitely shot on location in a real swamp, which is very
Certainly.
cool.
Yeah.
But I feel like we got a whole lot of swamp and not a lot of thing,
I
which
feel
was
you.
kind of disappointing. Like there's a lot of scenes where it's just like the bad guys talking about finding Swamp Thing and the Swamp Thing is not there.
Hmm.
And I'm like, can we get to the Swamp Thing? Luckily, at the end, we did get exactly what I wanted, which was um, I predicted it from the very beginning. I knew it was going to happen because it's the obvious thing to happen. But it ends in a sword duel,
Hmm.
um, and so you have Swamp Thing with like a swamp sword, and then you have one of the bad guys at like a party takes the liquid and turns into like not a swamp thing, but like a
I don't even know what the
animal
hell he turned
wolf
into.
thing. It's like a Wolverine, not wolf character, but like you have some like wolf rodent
Yeah.
creature. I don't know. It's watch it for yourself. You can tell what I mean. But it's
Hmm.
some nondescript creature, and he just has a sword, and so then they just have a sword fight because of course they do.
And then he just stabs him with it at the end, I
And then
think.
he just stabs him, and then it ends,
And
and
it
it's
just
like, well,
ends. Yeah.
you know, yeah,
It's really funny. When we get to the part where Adriana Barbeau is bathing in the swamp, my brain just kind of goes, "Ooh, Adriana Barbeau, topless, woohoo!" But, um,
get
but
your mind out of the gutter.
I know.
You're here for Ray Wise.
So, out of curiosity, I'm googling. I'm like, okay, Was there originally a lot more of this movie because it does feel like maybe some stuff was chopped out. So I Google it, and it turns out there is an alternate version of the movie, but it's only 2 extra minutes. So I'm like, okay, I guess there wasn't a bunch of stuff cut out. Let's find out what those 2 minutes were. And those 2 minutes are purely just more of Adriana Barbeau just bathing. It's just more shots of her topless. So it's like, okay,
We
that's
gotta
that's
kill the
that's a hell of
Craven
an
guy.
international cut, I guess. But all right, Wes Craven, I respect it, I guess.
Freak.
bro was going crazy with it. Ugh. But God, what else was there with that crazy movie? There is one scene when about halfway through, when he goes back to after he's become the Swamp Thing, Alec Hollins stumbles his way back to his lab, and he just sits there with these flowers and all these really beautiful pink orchids, and it's not very well done, and the lighting is. Unfortunately, I think you messaged me saying it kind of looks like they shot this in my backyard, and it
Yeah,
does. The lighting is very simple, and I think it's a lot of natural lighting. Um, it just hit me in the heart. I don't know. He was sitting there with those flowers, and it just looked beautiful. And his character, it just God. For a second, it was a 5-star movie. Just for that 1 second right there, I
just
really
that 1 second.
yeah. And that I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot, but sometimes when a movie has something like that, even if the rest of it sucks, I just can't help but kind of like it. You know what I mean?
It has the important moments, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
For me, that was a sword duel.
Mm, mm. I will also say I don't want to upset anyone. I'm absolutely going to though. It's the most I've ever enjoyed a Wes Craven movie. So,
Ooh.
yeah, I gave it
I have
3 stars out of 5. So you can
I
picture
have
the
no
rest.
room to talk because slightly more embarrassingly, I've only seen one other Wes Craven film, and that was
Gotcha.
Scream.
I've seen.
That's it.
Let me check Wes Craven's filmography. I think I've seen 3 others. Yeah, I've seen original Scream, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and A New Nightmare. And you know, again, we're not just gonna sit here and bash Wes Craven. May he rest in peace. He was a legend of horror filming. So I'm not just gonna bash him.
Yeah, I just haven't seen enough,
Yeah, I should
but
probably.
I
I,
did.
I
I
gotta
did
see The
not
Hills
care for
Have
Swamp
Eyes.
Thing.
I gotta see The Hills Have Eyes and Red Eye for sure. Red Eye has Cillian Murphy, and it's 90 minutes of just a fun, or 85 minutes even of just a fun little plain horror from what I've heard. So I gotta check that out.
And one last thing I wanted to mention for Swamp Thing
Hmm.
was they did something very specific that is a staple of another very famous franchise, and that was the bad guy uses a Mission Impossible
Oh my
mask.
God! Yes, I can't believe I forgot that.
He literally walks in, it's a different actor, and then he pulls his face off, and it's another dude under there. And I stood up and cheered
I,
for
I
that one
I
second.
love how 80s it was, where it was they had one actor come in and then just kind of rip a fake piece of skin off his face, and then they cut to Ray Wise looking at him, and then they cut back, and it's just a new actor pulling something else off of his face.
Incredible
Because
stuff.
obviously
So good.
they don't have the technology to just straight up have him do face replacement. But it's so good. It's so funny.
It was probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's about it for this episode. But before we go, we do have one quick thing we wanted to mention. I know Isaac wanted to quickly speak on the lovely James Cameron. Recently revealed that there's going to be a little subtitle previous to in the opening of Avatar 3 that's going to mention the film had no generative AI. So
Yeah.
Isaac, why don't you speak
So
on that?
Big Jim here, Big Jim. He can take me anywhere he wants. I'll go
Oh,
on any one of his
let
adventures.
me tell you.
I was getting a little leery of him working with some AI groups. Now, not all AI is bad, to be clear. There are some AI tools that help filmmakers, where the filmmakers themselves are still creating art. It's just extra tools to use.
Right.
This is not generative AI. Generative AI, we do not like.
No.
Very bad. Keep it out of art. So the fact that Jim is not not only going to be taking that stance, but he's putting it in front of a movie that is likely going to make $2 billion and is known for its massive, massive amounts of VFX and
Yep,
stuff that people want to use generative AI for. I think just him alone saying that could like kind of tip the scales back a little bit with because we've been seeing more and more Gen AI in movies. I think even though he's just one man, he's Big
absolutely.
Jim, and
And
I think he could turn it back a little bit.
that's the thing. He is just one man, but he's kind of the one director with stupid clout. You know,
Yeah,
like
what is it like? The top four highest grossing films, three of them are his
yeah,
movies.
yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, I massively agree with what you said. Obviously, not all AI is bad for filmmaking, but generative AI is definitely bad for filmmaking, and I massively appreciate that a movie that is going to be seen by millions of people is going to quickly point out that generative AI was not used, and it's not gonna. I don't know if it's gonna say anything further than that, but it's at least I think people will be able to put two and two together that this is about skill and this is about real talented VFX artists, and just because it's computer generated doesn't mean it's not an incredibly hard thing to do. You know,
Yeah, it's still ultimately art made by humans.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, I think we can end it there. This was a lovely episode of the podcast, Mr. Isaac. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered everything. I think it was a lot of fun. Maybe next week we can choose some better movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, I think it's important that we include some movies that we don't love.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if I was gonna like Swamp Thing or not. It just kind of
Certainly,
fell that way.
certainly.
But yeah,
All right. Yeah, I agree with everything Isaac said there, and yeah, it was great, great talking again, and hope you guys tune in next time. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye.
see ya.